Author is funded by the Pacific Northwest Writers Association, supporting writers from pen to publication since 1955. To learn more about the PNWA and their yearly conference, please go to pnwa.org.
Hi, I'm Terry Person, and I'm at the PNWA Writers Cottage today, and we're talking with William Kenower, author of Fearless Writing.
Terry, thanks so much for doing this. It's great to be here.
So let's start here. Let's start at the basics of the whole thing, because it is a book about writing, right?
Yeah.
And so the big question with writers in general is, how do I get out of myself so that I can write the best work?
How can I get out of my way to
get out of my own way?
Yeah. How do I get out of my? You know what's interesting about that? Yeah, that is a good point. You have to. How do you get out of your own way to let your best work through?
Okay.
Would you say that?
Yeah.
And what I have found is the way you get, and the sort of central thesis of fearless writing is, the number one fear that all authors face is the question, I wonder what other people will think of it. The awareness that other people are going to read it, and you need someone to like it.
And so what you're really saying is kind of opposite of what you hear a lot of times, where they say, remember you have a reader. You're saying, stop remembering you have a reader.
So this is an interesting, yes. You actually have to, in order to write something for a reader, in order to offer your best work for readers, something to share that you value with readers, with people you'll never meet in all likelihood, you have to forget about them. You have to forget about the concept of what will anybody else think about it. I think about the writer's imagination like a movie screen, and it can only handle one question at a time, right? And the questions need to be, what do I want to write about? What's the story I want to tell? What needs to happen next? How am I going to get them out of the prison? What's her job? What's my heroine's job? What do I think about, what do I remember about my relationship with my dad? Whatever the story or poem is about. What do I want to say? And the movie screen is filled with answers to that question, and then you look at what you've written and you say, well, have I said it? Is that what I meant to say? Is what's on the page as compelling as I'm seeing have I translated what's in my imagination in words to what's on the page so that the two things match? Those questions are what writing are made up of. What do I want to say, and have I said them? But if you start asking, so if you ask the question, what do I want to say, your movie screen of your mind, of your imagination will be filled with that question and the answers that come to you in the form of images and memories and so on. But if you ask the question, I wonder what other people will think about it. I wonder if there's a market for this. I wonder if this will be a bestseller. I wonder if this is better than the next one. I wonder what my writing group will think of it. I wonder. If you ask that question,
you're going to get those answers.
You're going to get what you will get is, and not even those answers, because your imagination can't answer that question. And so you will be staring at a movie screen filled with many, many images, most of them terrifying you because you can't really answer that question the same way you can answer the question, what is interesting to me? That you can answer, and you will feel the insecurity around trying to answer the question, I wonder what other people will think about it. And so the best way to write for people whom you love and whom you want to share like the most beautiful things you can come up with the way to come up with your best story to share with other people, your best poem to share with other people, is to forget about them and to say, what is it I value most and how can I best say it?
So this goes back to the whole idea of think about what you can control and what you can't control.
Exactly.
If you can't control it, then forget about it.
That's right.
Because you can only control what you produce.
You can't control other people.
Right.
But God, we want to. Right? How do I get someone to buy something I wrote? I can't control my kid or my wife. I sure can't control the reading public.
Yeah.
But I do have complete command over what questions I ask. But this is interesting, Terry. I don't even have control over the answers I get. It's like, I think of it like Google, my imagination. I can ask a question, and then my imagination provides an answer like Google does. As the questions change, the answers change. My main job is to know what the right question to ask is.
Right.
As my questions change, my answers change.
So this gets us to the subconscious.
Exactly.
Because what happens is, even if I ask the right question, if my subconscious is constantly saying, yeah, but will anybody want this? Will anybody want this?
Well, and what I would say is this: that you have that I wouldn't. I don't think that. So it gets a little technical, but I wouldn't even put that question in the subconscious. I think that you ask that question so habitually you don't know you're asking it.
Right, right.
So in other words, the question sometimes, will anybody like it, is no longer something you sit and ponder. It is just asked continually on an emotional level. Yeah. And the reason you continue to ask it is you have grown accustomed to the discomfort that is inevitable for that question. And because you have grown accustomed, the way some people grow accustomed to abusive marriages, and some people grow accustomed to poverty or hunger, they just think that's what life feels like. Mm-hmm. And the same way people believe that writing should be hard. And so if they struggle to write, they think that's just what writing is supposed to feel like. Until you recognize the discomfort of the question, I wonder what other people will think of it. Not as normal, but as information. The discomfort is information from your guidance system.
And this goes back to the whole idea of how your own writing affects your own life, your life. Because now I'm getting to look at who I really am on the page. Yeah. And if I can,
I think that what the best way writing teaches us who we are as human beings is it asks you to say, as the writer. So every writer, whether you're Shakespeare or Stephen King or Terry Person, your page is all exactly as blank. You all start with that same blank page. And you all have to ask the same question, which is, what do I think is interesting? What do I value most? And I think the writers that we put up on pedestals are the ones who have said to themselves, I'm going to let the fact that I'm interested in something be absolutely enough proof. That's all the proof I need, that it's worthy of my complete attention. And I think writing says, what do you value? What does it feel? What do you value about being human? Where do you find meaning in this experience? You, not what does the market find value. And I don't care if it's romance or science fiction or memoir, poetry, whatever it is, because if you write romance, it means you value the experience of the romance novel.
Right.
And so, but every romance novel is different, even though they follow these formulas. Each one is different in its own. So what do you value about it? And I think that question, what is worthy of my complete attention? The same attention I would give to a novel assigned in a literature class in college. The same attention I would give to a movie on the screen. The thing I write deserves the same complete attention, and conceivably the same attention from strangers. Because if you publish a book, it could be set right next to your idols. And the bookstore it's the same book, it's the same spine, it's the same thing. Do you think you belong there? Because what you're interested in as valuable as what anybody else is interested in. And when you start really answering that question for yourself, not only do you become a better writer, but you start learning what it really means to be your full self, your authentic self. What do you care about? What is interesting to you? There is nothing that can be more uniquely you than the answer to that question.
And so what do you say to people who have been writing for a long time and they have that peak in their sales, and then it starts to drop off and they start to complain that, it's the market and it's this and it's that.
Well, never
do
look
you think that they're not reaching back in?
Yeah, I would say so. I would, first of all, never blame anything outside. Don't blame the market. Don't blame your publisher, editor, tempting as it can be. I would say, are you keeping up with yourself? Are you keeping up with your interest? Maybe you don't want to be writing that same series anymore.
Yeah.
Maybe your sales represent your interest in the subject matter. I have to believe it's that. But as a writer, I have to focus on what I can control. And I can't control the market. No one can control the publishers can't control the market, right?
Yes,
you can't
exactly.
But I can control what I'm paying attention to. And I do find that and I do think when you have success sometimes, you're afraid to let yourself move on because you want to keep that success rolling. And I can totally understand not wanting to change gears if your imagination is calling for you to do that. Mm-hmm. But I think that you can't be at your best unless you are fully engaged. And it is entirely possible that you could want to grow, want to change, but fear that no, people only like that story, some version of that story, and even though you have other ideas.
Yeah, or publishers say,
Oh, they'll say
we
that.
need more of that.
Yeah, they'll
right?
say that, but publishers
Yeah.
can change, and you can
Yeah.
change publishers, and publishers can be talked out of that.
Yeah.
They can be.
Yeah, I agree. Well, if you write the right book,
Yeah,
they'll
and if
say,
you come
okay,
out in the right way,
yeah, this works.
you know, people change their minds.
So the final question
Yeah.
is, if you've learned anything from writing, what is that?
Well, that's tough. I feel like the answer keeps changing, but I would say, you know what? One thing I've learned recently, because I keep learning new things. So here's something I've learned recently, is the difference between form and content. I used to be enamored of form, sentences, style, just form, what the shape anything takes, trying to make it look right. And I came to understand that my job was to only focus on content, which is the reason I am telling you a story in the first place. What is the gift I'm trying to give you? The form, the sentences, the story, the essay, is merely the delivery system for something that is for the gift I want to give, which is usually about, which for me is always about unconditional love. What does it feel like to love yourself, to love life unconditionally? That's the content. And that many writers struggle because they become more concerned about the form than the content. What is the thing I'm trying to share? Why is it I love mysteries? And what is it about my mysteries that I value so much? What is it I love about memoir or about my life or essays or poetry or whatever it is? The content is the gift you're trying to give. If you can let that be the guide for your work, not the form it takes, and certainly not the results you get from that content, in other words, the sales and awards or whatever, but let all your focus just be the content, which is like water that can take any, I've written literally thousands of essays about writing and writing fearlessly. The content is always the same. You're going to be okay, everything's going to be okay, write what you love. But the form can literally take thousands of shapes, because it's like the water is the content that can fill any vessel.
Right.
So be deeply interested in the content. What is the thing you want to share? The rest will take care of itself.